Welcome to the DYSON'S Effect,
a show about everyday situations, issues, and topics we talk about and give our opinions.
We may even listen to yours.
We are your hosts, Johnny
and Teresa,
also known as Mr. and Mrs. Dyson. I just be enthralled, just loving that intro like that. Then how the beat just drop right on in for our background music. I just be loving it. And the biggest thing why I love it is because I picked it out and everything. So, when we doing these podcasts and people in the podcast community, we have to pick everything right. We can't have no samples, none of that stuff. So I made sure I picked this, and it's like, no matter how many times I hear it, I'm like, man, it's more dope, man. Because you could look at it like this. How many times we listen to music on the radio and they play it over and over and over again, and there was a song on there and you was like, it's okay. Then after a while you're like, oh, okay. But see, I never felt like that with this one. Like, oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that. And then once we did our intro, when we first did our intro, our mics wasn't right and all this stuff. We had to learn all this stuff and did all this stuff on the fly. But for some reason, our first take on our intro went through without our mics being right. I don't know how. I don't know what happened. But after that take, we had to get our chords and all this stuff. And I'm saying like we learned all this on the fly. So when I learned this on the fly, I end up picking a good song, good background music, everything. Now, if y'all listening to this, and if y'all watch me on YouTube, y'all could probably tell that I am by myself at this moment. Simply because my wife is going through her ups and downs of her battles. Some challenges she's going through. And ironically, I had a friend that gave me a call. And this, my friend that gave me a call, he asked me a question. And first of all, I was humbled to get the question, but he asked me, how would he know if he's going through whatever he's going through in a matter of, is it depression? Is it just something that he's going through? Is it anxiety that he has? Like, he was asking me these questions because he was like, how do I know I'm going through these things? And then he asked me, how do I know if certain things are missing in my life? And if those things are missing in my life, how do I become whole again? And that was an interesting question. Because so many times that we go through different things, we wonder if, like I tell my friends sometimes, a lot of times we going through things, it feels like we're on an island and we're the only ones on the island. And sometimes we're the only one going through it. And sometimes you don't even know if you're going through it until something happens, or you get a wake-up call, or the alarm goes off in that situation. And he was asking me, he was going through these challenges. As he's going through these challenges, he was like, is these things signs of depression? Are these things signs of anxiety? Or am I missing these things to become whole again? And for me, I think it's very interesting to acknowledge where you are at, and if this is the issue. A lot of my other friends and family members are and have been, and some are, still in this situation to this day. They're in denial right now, and there is a sliding scale with it, of course, as I always say. you could be on a level on a scale of 1 to 10, you could be a 2, but it still needs to be addressed. You could be a 9, but it still needs to be addressed. But if you don't know, if you don't went from 2 to 3, then in a short time span, you don't went from 3 to 4, it's hard to address, where the chips may fall and what's been going on in your life, what caused all these things. So this friend that I was talking, that called me, and he was just like, things are changing now. He's in a different situation. How do he get out of this little rut that he's in? And I kind of talked about this before, and I kind of reiterated different ways. We are living in a different day and age and time. Different day and age and time when our emotions are being attacked and who we are is being attacked as people. So the unwritten rules that we used to have on challenging our mental space are not there anymore. So now people are seeking help, but they don't know, like, am I depressed? Because there's a difference between anxiety, depression, clinically anxiety, clinically depression. It's things that you may need medication for, things that you may have to really go get help for. And some people do not want to go get help for whatever reason, right, wrong, and different. Especially in the black and brown communities, that has been changing. It has been getting better. People have been getting some type of help with life coaches like myself and different therapists and counselors. So with that being the changes, that's what's been open, keeping the door open for open dialogue. A little bit, I kind of say this, and I don't want to cringe when I say it a little bit, because I don't want it to sound unrelatable to a lot of people. Because the changes and challenges my wife is going through, I'm going through as well with her. But a little bit of the cheat code that I have is that I'm a life coach. And one of the things as a life coach is, or I believe is that you just don't always have to be positive. You kind of always have to walk it like you talk it. See, as a life coach, people gonna come to you from all different walks of life. I've met with bankers, consultants, CFOs, CEOs of big companies. All of them have said I'm very knowledgeable in things that I do. They look to me for advice. They question me. We have great, even if it's not for life coaching in general, just in many different things, in business aspect and everything. We have great talks. And being that we have great talks, my insight is different than the average person, and I have to be engulfed into being this life coach, and I just can't just be a life. Okay. It's also with me being a fitness coach. Those work hand in hand with me. I can't be a fitness coach and not in shape and not be into nutrition and not be into these things, and this is not my way of life. I can't be a life coach and I can't be a positive person, looking on the brighter side of things, figuring out the why and everything. So for me, that's a cheat code, because I kind of always been like that. And if you've been listening before, I kind of always been like, hey, I'll figure it out. Or, hey, it could always be worse. Or, hey, and the older I got, the more clarity and more intellectual in that process I've been. So if there was a time when I couldn't get a job, real bad, I couldn't get a job for a long time after having a degree, and it was very, very hard to stay positive as a man with children at the time, as me doing everything that they say you're supposed to do. And I didn't have the mental space clarity that I have now, because I didn't know where to go, what to do, what to look for, and I was still had the same mindset of the small city that we was originally from, from Benton Harbor, Michigan, for the people that may not know. When you have that small city mentality, you kind of think small city mind, and it takes a while to evolve from that. So I was still thinking in the matter of, okay, maybe I can get me a business, but what this business gonna be? I was still fishing, but in the process of me trying to get this business and get this money going, I still kind of don't know what I really want to do. Then I still I have to make some money. So, the luxury of some people, some, not all, some people that can start from nothing, from nothing, and they can build their way up. All they have to do is provide for themselves. Or if they have a spouse, they only have to, when you have a spouse or significant other and children and other are counting on you, then the bills. So it's hard to figure out, like, should I do this or should I do that? And being young on top of it, of course. So, but I have this cheat code to I always tapped in and being like, hey man, I'm just thankful for whatever I have. I'm thankful for this because I know it was a time that I didn't have it. I ended up getting a job. It ended up working out. And then I ended up getting a better paying job. And then it still worked. So I always had the mentality that it could always be worse. And I know something better is coming. I just know something better is coming. I just know something better is coming. I just know, okay. And then I always worked on what I can do to change this. If I literally cannot do anything to change this, what powerful thing that I can do to not let it control me? For example, one of the things I always say to myself is I don't ever want to be a slave to anything. Now, especially as a black man, we can't afford to be a slave to anything anymore. But that slave you can be a slave to anything to have it hinder you from doing something. So it don't have to be from labor, so to speak. You could be a slave to material things, right? You could be a slave to women or men being a womanizer. You can be a slave to all these things and not being able to let it go. Not being able. I had a friend that asked me another question about a guy that's still out in the clubs and he's older than me. He's like in his 50s because he never grew out of it. So to a degree, he's still a slave to those little boy or little man attributes and trying to have all the women or the women that he can. He's in his 50s. He never matured out of that situation. So I always had the mentality of, how can I change this? If I can't do anything, if I cannot change it, somehow I got to figure this out to deal with it. As hard as it may seem, I just got to eat it. One of the things I tell the kids, me and my wife had discussions about on how I can do better. The hardest thing we can do is take accountability. If for example, I can't get a job and I'm doing all these things to get a job and I'm still doing other things around it, I'm taking accountability on finding it at that time. I'm taking accountability on doing whatever it is I can do. And I think those are the steps that help us figure those small things out. Those are the steps that help us you see if we're pointing the finger at someone else, or are we really looking inside, being honest? Like, when you got into that fight, was it really your fault? Right? Is there some problems that you're not addressing, and why? One of the things that it's many self-help books, many different things of how they use on how you can ask yourself the right questions, ask yourself the right things. But if we're taking accountability, one of the things, and I'm gonna come back to this, one of the things we have to be careful with is getting in our comfort zones. Sometimes it's in our own comfort zone to blame someone else. Like, they didn't hire me because they racist, like, which is a possibility, but how long are you gonna hold on to that before you apply to someone else, before you move on, before you figure something out? Sometimes, our comfortability, sometimes our comfortability is to keep doing the same thing we've been doing, because to a degree it feeds us. Now you might ask me, like, well, how will my comfortability feeds me? If you never took accountability, that's your comfort zone, to not take accountability, and you justify it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Well, how would I take accountability for this? Ask yourself the right questions. There are some things that when you ask yourself the right questions, you have to ask yourself, what type of ways do you meet these qualifications? One of the things is that it's a I'm not sure how old I am, but this song by South Circle called Attitude. What's your attitude? And it's all about your attitude that determines your altitude in life. Your attitude determines your altitude. So with that being said, how does your attitude in today's time depict where you are at? How does your attitude, even if there's nothing if you've really done everything you can do, your attitude can change the outcome. Now you probably ask yourself, well, how can my attitude change my health? How can my attitude change with me getting a job? How can my attitude do something that's, because what you put out in the world is what you get back. That's one of the basic things in the law of attractions. Many people say they believe the laws of attraction, but they don't practice it. It's very simple. When you put out good things, it comes back. And some of the good things that you do, it blocks the bad things. Somebody's like, huh? Yes. Many of the good things, if you have so many good things that you're doing, it blocks the bad things coming to your way. What you put out comes back. So, ask yourself again, how can I have a good attitude about my health situation? There's been studies people have done in many different countries where people have had cancerous disease, mental illness disease, very bad health situations, and they stayed positive. And when they stayed positive, for some reason the doctor can't figure out how did they overcome it. How did they come to the doctor and it ended up being healed? Now, some could argue that spiritually that was God. But there have been tests to argue that mentally, what your brain does is sends different brain waves and patterns through the body on trying to communicate with it. So when your body tries to communicate with your brain, you really believe that it's going to be helped. You really believe that you're going to be all right. You engulf in that. You're enthralled into those positions of thinking of how things will be better. So when you're thinking that way, your body will believe it as well. As so the body, as so the brain, as so the spirit. So all of that follows. And even for the people that doesn't believe in God, what you put out in the world will come back. It's just inevitable. And even for the same thing, we get you don't have a job. Like, how can I stay positive? I don't have a job. I don't have nothing. It's somebody that needs somebody that you can make somebody happy, or you can do something to think positive, right? And before, there was times I didn't even have a job, and I would see homeless people and I would give them money, and I didn't have no money. There was a time I had I want to say $13, and a guy asked me for some money. All I had was it was a little over $10, like $13 or $14. I don't think I had $15. Didn't have a job. I was living, I'm trying to see what city I was in. I think I was in Grand Rapids trying to find a job, living with a friend. And the guy asked me for some money. I said, I don't have that much money, but I can give you this. I gave him $5. I think I gave him $5, or I gave him close to half of the money I had, because I knew it was gonna come back. I know that's nothing but money. I just need some money to help me because of my current situation. But this person don't have no money and no hope. And the little money I gave him some hope. Oh man, thank you. Oh man, I hope God blesses you. This and that. He was just so happy that I gave him that money. Like, he was just so happy, so happy. And I'll never forget that, because I think a couple weeks later, he still remembered me, that I gave him that money, and I seen him somewhere else, and he was like, man, thank you for the money that you give me. I'm just down on my luck, and so on and so forth. The littlest things you do, because I knew he wasn't, because especially being in a city like Atlanta, people would be trying to scam you. They try to get $1 from everybody, and they can have on some Jordans. But when you stay positive like that and give to somebody else, I don't even worry about what they doing with it. I don't care if they taking it to do drugs. I don't care if they taking it to give somebody else. I don't care if they tricking me to do something. I don't care, because that's gonna come back on them for what they doing. If I gave them my heart, their money possibly will be cursed after that. So within this process, there's some questions that I want you to ask yourself if you are wondering, how do I become whole again? And I think that's I want to use this word right, the antithesis of everything that I'm saying. How do I become whole again if something is missing? How do I ask myself these questions on how do I become whole again on these issues? How do I come on these issues that's just beating me up inside? Just like, man, why am I going through this? Like, why me? Like, dang. Like, man, especially for the people that I know that used to having something and now they don't have nothing, or they just really down on their luck, or it just seems like they just can't get to the right spot. I've been there. So one of the first things you got to do is you got to start by thinking about what you like to achieve in this process. If you want to get a job, think about what do you want to achieve by getting a job. What type of job? When? What side of town it is? How would you like to get this job? Because certain jobs is a matter of who you meet. I just had a temporary situation with someone, and basically that's all about who you know. With the movie industry, studios and everything, a lot of that stuff is who you know. Some as applicant, signing applications and so on and so forth. A lot of it is who you know. So to work behind the scenes of who you know. Are you hoping to learn techniques for managing this situation? If you'd like to achieve this, are you managing? How would you like to achieve it? Okay, do you have steps in this process? You do have to learn how to nip those negative thoughts in the bud. You got to nip them. Whenever they come up, think something positive. Say some positive affirmations to yourself. Nip them in the bud. Have a practice sheet on things that you can tell yourself, because there used to be a saying that if people that talk to themselves is not the issue. If you talk to yourself and answer yourself and have a conversation with yourself, all those people crazy. But I talk to myself all the time in my head on different things I got to do, what I'm aspiring to do. You know, do you want to work on developing some positive current behaviors? Are the things that you're doing currently, think about this, are the things that you're doing currently as positive behaviors? So if you're going through this downward spiral that you're not feeling whole again, if you're going down this downward spiral on possibly going through different measures of anxiety and depression, you know, if it's going from a 2 to a 3 to a 4 to a 5, like, okay, what are your current behaviors in this process? Are you just sitting around at the house? Are you on social media just scrolling all the time? Are you, you know, laying in the bed, can't get out of the bed? What are you doing currently? So first, try to change on developing those current behaviors. Get some positive ones. Get some things that's very positive. And, you know, with this process, there's no right answer. It's figuring out what gets you out of the bed, right? Even if you don't have a job, get up and go do something. If your health is down and your health is, you know, stopping you from doing certain things, go read a book. Move. Have your brain always moving. Go do something. You know, clarifying your overarching goal will simply make your different objectives easier to understand. So if your goal is to get a job and you mapped out different things you need to do to get a job, well, you could learn who you are in this process on things that might have, you know, stumbled your process, stumbled your building block in this situation. So as I stated, you know, the first thing, start by thinking about what you like to achieve. Just start by thinking like, what do I want? What do I want to achieve right now in this moment? Ask yourself that. Secondly, understand more about your problem or your goal. Think about that. That's a good one. Understand more about your problem or your goal. Sometimes we have to separate our problem into practical parts. And sometimes it could be an emotional thing, sometimes it could be a behavioral thing, but sometimes we have to separate them. Now, the reason why I say separate them, how realistic is this situation? If your dream is to be a rap artist, is this practical? And if in your mind, is being a musical artist is very practical, what are the steps to it? Did you write it out? Have you studied the music industry? A lot of people are in the music or want to get in the music industry and have not studied it. Have you studied the music industry? And did you do the proper things to take those steps to get in there? Did you do it? Did you this if this is your problem, go back to getting a job. If your problem is getting a job, did you set up the resume? Did you have more than one resume? Did you have a cover letter? Do you have a thank you letter? Are you out networking with people that are in the same situation as you? Because the problem is you need to get a job. So are you doing more than one thing to get a job? And setting up different parameters, separating the problem. This is the problem. What are some other maps, roadways of things that I can do to get there? That's all. You know, what are some other things that you can challenge yourself on, different things that you can do to exercise those thoughts? Exercise, okay, how can I get this? Who can help me? Is it something I need help on? Who do I go to assist you in this situation? Some of the things may seem common, some of the things may not seem common, but when you map everything out, you can see things from a bird's eye view on different things that you want to do. Thirdly, study your feelings and or behaviors more closely. Now, this may be hard for many people because are you studying the right things about yourself and being honest? This hurt my feelings because, all right, this has been my behavior on this. For example, when I was out looking for a job, I didn't cut my hair. I was in a rebellious state of mind at that time. Now looking back, I probably would have cut my hair, but I was in a rebellious state of mind because I couldn't find a job. I was like, well, why should I cut my hair? They ain't accepting me how I look anyway. So what difference what difference how I look anyway matters if they're not accepting me how I look now? So why cut my hair? So at that time, believe it or not, I grew my hair out. I had braids because I was very rebellious. I'm like, well, I didn't want, and it was years ago. I didn't want to be this. I didn't want to be in corporate America at that time or have a corporate job, and felt that I had to assimilate. I had to acquiesce to a lot of the different things that to get this job, do a lot of white nosing and everything. I didn't want to do any of that. So, ask yourself, if I take a closer look at the problem, is my behavior correct in it? Am I just, or am I right for thinking how I think in this situation? Are you hoping to deal with the behavioral problem, like avoiding or coping behavior? Like, are you an avoidance type of person? Like, well, I never learned how to do resumes, so I'm just not going to do it. Or different coping mechanisms on your behavior skills? Are you targeting unwanted feelings in this process? There's different measures on this when it comes to your behavior. This is when the anxiety questions come in. This is also when the depression comes in. Am I getting anxiety, panic attacks because of this? Which is two different things: anxiety or panic attack or depression. Am I getting? It's all a process, But then you have to describe the feeling or the behavior that you're thinking or that you're going through in this situation, and you got to recall the times that, okay, if I'm feeling like this, how often do I feel like this? Do I kick myself in the butt every time they tell me no at the job, or because that shows a pattern? And then keep a record of these things. Keep a record of how often these things. That way you can recollect, play those things back in your mind of what goes on. Fourth, identify. Keyword. Identify and explore any associated self-talk, thoughts, or beliefs. This is when, going back to when I say I talk to myself. Do you talk to yourself, and what words do you use? What are triggers that set you off? Because sometimes those triggers are also words that you picked up from somewhere else and used them against yourself, or those somehow made it into your mind that those words are good to use for positive things, or they made it to your mind that those are bad to use for negative things and it's been beating you up. How often do you use these things? Are they irrational or unhelpful cognitive things that you use? Like, is it just like, okay, you don't have to say these things to yourself. Like, okay, I'm better than that. These things, how you talk to yourself or not, can raise the level of many people that have hypertension, or in other words, high blood pressure. How you talk to yourself. What's the relationship with yourself on how do you talk to yourself in the right moment? What other things are you doing when you're talking to yourself in this process? Are you really being honest with yourself? Identifying the negative self-talk or the distortions that go on in your head. Are you really being positive? I was talking to a lady friend the other day, earlier this year, maybe last year. And she's a little heavy set. She's a little thick. And one of the things that she said was, there's a lot of men that's not checking for big women. I said, what? I said, huh? I said, yeah, she said, dudes ain't really, into big women like that. I said, where'd you get that from? And I had to challenge that thought, because that's a negative thing to say about yourself if you figure yourself a big woman, because there's men that love all type of women, that love women from the littlest thing to the biggest thing, and that's their preference. But that's a negative thing to say about yourself, to say, you don't like the way you look and you won't be with somebody because no one will look at you or no one will be attracted to you on how you look as in today's time. And I think that's a thing that you can challenge yourself on. Why did I say that? Where did I get those thoughts from? Was this a social media thought? Was this something that came up on social media, or this is something that has been said on social media? Was something said on TV, radio? Where did this thought come from? Because something planted that seed there and it grew. And you could pick these questions and evolve them on the next step. Okay, where did I get that from? How did I keep that thought in my mind process? So fifth, challenge your irrational thoughts, internal dialogue, or belief. I always say challenge. I'm a big thing about challenge. You got to challenge everything, in my opinion. You have to challenge everything good about you and everything bad about you. Simply because I think you have to challenge the good about you is because you want to prove why it's good. Or it may not be good at all. Or it may not be bad. Or it might just be a neutral situation. But you have to challenge on the things that are good. And challenge the thing that is bad. Just like, how does that, challenge that. Challenge that thought. Okay, for example, the lady friend, if she said no one's checking for big girls, okay, challenge it. Go look around. Go travel the world. Right? Go to another state. Go to another city. See how other people socialize. Look on different things on social media that meant that if there's different forums, chat rooms, dating sites, which is a separate topic, on men that like big women. Challenge that thought. Prove yourself right or wrong. The biggest thing. There's a whole range of things of how you can look at yourself, how you can challenge yourself. And regardless of which direction you choose in it, look at yourself more positively on how you challenge yourself. Like in getting a job, challenge yourself on the thoughts of, okay, maybe I could think outside the box on the type of job that I want. So that way I can get something that I need. And this job could probably lead me to a better paying job or lead me to a better paying situation. Challenge that thought. Just challenge it. Challenge everything. Challenge everything. Challenge everything about you. Challenge everything that was told to you. Challenge the way you grew up. Challenge everything. Because that way you can stand on it. You could make an argument in a situation more towards yourself or anything else. So, next, replace your irrational thoughts. No, that was, yeah. See. Let me see. Because I've written these down. Yes, replace your irrational thoughts or beliefs. Now, if you have a negative thought, to go back to the lady friend I had, if you have a negative thought, like no one's checking for big, how do you replace that? By, pun intended, by looking on certain places, social media, of course, or this is when it can come in handy. How you can replace these thoughts. When people love BBWs, when people love big women, there's so many groups where men love big. They love big women. Some can't get enough of it. So challenge it. Replace that like, oh, I know men love it. And if you didn't get this job, replace that thought as in, I know I'm good enough for this job because I may not have gotten this job now, but I know I'm good enough for this job. Replace these thoughts with more objective things and a better rational thought on something that makes sense. I know I can get a manager's job because I'm well educated, I'm good with people, I'm a great leader, and so on and so forth. Many different things how you can cater it to change your thoughts, change your beliefs on something that's positive. Replay it in your head on something that's better. Affirm those things. The key word in affirmations is affirm. Be very affirmative in the things that you're saying to yourself over and over and over again. And last but not least, this is the greatest thing that made Jordan what he is today, that made Kobe what he is today, is the inevitable, the great practice, 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 and practice. Every day we face things that can trigger you, can trigger me, can trigger all of us. If you don't practice on it every day, you will not become strong in it. If you don't practice every day on talking to yourself or saying positive things, saying positive affirmation, looking on the bright side of things, if you don't practice it every day, you will not be strong. A person that runs a marathon does not run that marathon in 1 day, 1 month, 3 months. They have to go through different stages of practicing. They have to go through different stages of, how do I get better? How do I'm able to run longer? How, like different runs. Like there's a difference between like a 5K. Like I ran a 5K before, which is only 3.2 miles. There's different, runs you can do than a real marathon. Marathon is in double digit numbers, miles, right? So you start off by gaining your way on that. You start off with anywhere between 1 to 3 miles, right? Maybe one day, I don't know. I'm trying to see if we can do it, y'all. Y'all gonna have to pray for me on this one, but I want to do the Tough Mudder maybe. And anybody seeing the Tough Mudder, there's a lot of obstacles, going through mud, even go through electrocution. I think it'll be fun. And they got other ones that's not so competitive. I don't think the Tough Mudder is competitive, but it's the community around it, everybody doing it. I would maybe like to do something maybe smaller and something, because from what I've heard thus far, the Tough Mudder is basically a lot of body weight, because you're going to be climbing on things, pulling yourself over, running. It's a lot of body weight, so you want to get in shape. A lot of calisthenics is what I've been doing lately. But I want to do the Tough Mudder or something like it. Maybe something smaller than do the Tough Mudder, because the Tough Mudder is, I think, on like 3 miles, and I can do that. But it's a difference where you got to climb and do everything. So I have to practice. But I've been doing a lot of calisthenics anyway, because this just hit me earlier this year. Like I might be ready to do the Tough Mudder. So, I do, 1,000 squats a day, 400 push-ups on another day, so on and so forth. So, I may be ready to do the Tough Mudder now that I'm thinking about it. But it comes with doing a lot of practice. The practicing allows you to develop things, switch it up, make some adjustments, strengthen on this, strengthen on that. And then in the process, you be like, oh, okay, I know what I can do. Oh, yeah, I got this. And as I said before, and I'm going to close on this, how we deal with things you become stronger on how you deal with it. If you're not getting good on dealing with things, when things come and hit you, it's just going to keep beating you up. If you're only dealing with it at a level on a 1, it's hard to get to 2. And if you're not practicing on 2, it's hard to get to 3. You may stay on 2 for a long time. And as I said before, someone is always watching you, right? Someone is always, they doing better. That person is doing good. Hey, that person is positive. Hey, someone's always watching you, good, right, wrong, and different. Whether somebody watching you, whether they don't like you, whether someone watching that they do like you, and they want to, pat you on the back because of that. Someone is always watching you. The question is, are you going to do this while someone is watching you, and while you are watching yourself and holding yourself accountable to keep doing these things, to make yourself whole again, to not go down that downward spiral of anxiety or depression or any clinical issue that's challenging your mental space. So someone's always watching you. How do you become whole again is by paying attention to the things that, that took pieces of you away, and challenging those things that, was this piece gone? Was this piece really here? Or is this a figment of my imagination that this is just a thought that I had, and this wasn't an issue anyway? Are these things that I need to pay attention to? Are these things challenging me on who I am as a man or a woman or a person or whoever I am doing this process? Is this challenging me? Why is this challenging me? Why is this hurting my feelings? Why I can't pick myself up? What can I do today, right now? Right now. Not tomorrow, not I'll do, I think tomorrow no. What can you do in this moment, right now? Don't wait, because you done waited all this long. You how old? Or you how young? We got to do better than we did yesterday. So we do better than we did yesterday. Why would you wait till tomorrow? Why would you wait till tomorrow to do good? Right? You start today. What are you going to do today? Right here in this moment. In so many seconds and in 1 minute. What are you going to do today? It don't have to be perfect, but you have to do something today to make yourself better than you were yesterday on something that's making you whole again. So, that's it. Thank y'all for listening. I'm going to have another heater, another hot one for you. And follow our social media pages on the Dyson's Effect on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow my wife's page on I Am His Mrs. Dyson on Instagram, Facebook, her website, Miss Curvy Flavors Boutique. She has a lot of great ideas, and her mental space is being challenged by everything that she's going through. But I'm going to help her get everything together the best way I can as possible. With her guiding the way, of course, with her being the boss of her boutique and everything. She has great ideas. Just follow her, give her words of encouragement. Do this during this process of everything. Her mental space is being challenged right now. Give her resources and tools on things that she can use in the same process. Follow me at Benevolent Coach on Twitter, but also follow me as your Benevolent Coach on Instagram, Facebook, Johnny D, everywhere. Email us at thedysoneffect@hotmail.com if you got any questions, issues, concerns. But as always, thank y'all for listening. This is Johnny, and this has been another episode of The Dyson's Effect. Peace, love, and blessings. Stay blessed.